Double Game Week 28 has officially been announced, and this is going to have a massive impact on our transfers going into this weekend. So in this video, I'm going to tell you everything that you need to know about these Double Game Week announcements, how it's going to impact our transfers, and of course, my current chip strategy going into the back end of the season. So as always, if you look forward to today's video, please do consider dropping a like. We're in for 300 on this video. And of course, if you're not already subscribed to the channel, please do consider doing so. So we have so much to talk about in this video. Let's get straight into it. So first up, we need to talk about this Double Game Week 28 announcement, which was officially done last night. Here is a quote tweet from Bournemouth, just in case you thought that I was lying. And it is confirmation that the Bournemouth-Luton fixture has been moved to Wednesday, the 13th of March. Now, this is massive for FPL because not only do we have the Double Game Week in 25, the blank in Game Week 26, but we now have this Double Game Week for two teams in Game Week 28. And all of a sudden, it starts to get game time, the crunch time of FPL, where really the engaged managers are going to be benefiting. So congratulations if you are tuning into this video. So what I want to do is quickly cover off the fixtures over the next few game weeks for both of these teams, and we need to discuss exactly when we should be buying them, if at all. So first up, we need to take a look at Bournemouth. Now, as we mentioned, Double Game Week 28 has been announced, and it is one of the most favourable double game weeks I think I've ever seen, and that is at home against Sheffield United and at home against Luton. Now, I don't think they come much better than that, and somebody like a Dominic Solanke feels really, really important over that period. We also do need to look a little bit before that. Game Week 27 is also brilliant away against Burnley. Prior to that, and I know a lot of people are currently sat there with Dominic Solanke, are maybe looking at it and originally thinking to sell Dominic Solanke for somebody like a Darwin Núñez. Well, looking at the fixtures coming up, I don't think Bournemouth are essential over the next three. Fulham away, I don't think it's a bad fixture, but it's not amazing. Then Newcastle away, followed by Man City at home. So I don't think Bournemouth are a team that we need to be targeting right now, and I have mentioned it here. I do think Bournemouth could be avoided altogether if you want to, up until Game Week 27, and then I think the investment needs to be made because there is even a deliberation to maybe triple captain Dominic Solanke in Game Week 28 with that amazing fixture. Now, Luton are really interesting as well because they are one of the few teams that we've ever seen in FPL who have two double game weeks in such a short space of time. Usually we see some teams have it, but it will be at the start of the season and at the end. You can see here with the Luton fixtures, Sheffield United at home in Game Week 24. Forget about the doubles, that is still a great fixture for Luton. They then double in Game Week 25, which previously announced. Yes, it is difficult, but at home against Man United and away against Liverpool, a team like Liverpool who are focusing on that Carabao Cup final, we could see a surprise there. Game Week 26 is, of course, a blank, which does throw a bit of a curveball if you are considering their assets. And then Villa at home, followed by that official double game week announcement in 28, away against a struggling Palace and away against Bournemouth. So I've stated here, I do think Luton are a buy this week if you want to target that Sheffield United fixture. But if you don't buy them this game week, I think Game Week 25 isn't essential. I don't really see a lot of their players thriving in that game week. And then you're going to be in a situation where Game Week 26 is a blank. And if you do end up tripling up in Game Week 25, I just don't think the huge upside is there. I think you do it this game week to capitalise on that Sheffield United at home fixture. But don't get me wrong, I do think Luton are one of those teams that are going to be essential just because it gives us fixture volume, which is so important. And we are going to touch on the best Luton players to buy in the next section. One thing that I haven't noted on the screen, and I do need to update you, is the big blank Game Week 29. Now, what is really interesting about Luton is that there is a chance they will play in Game Week 29, which will be at home against Nottingham Forest. Now, of course, the FA Cup 5th round will dictate whether teams blank or not. But to give you a bit of an understanding, Luton will play in Game Week 29. If they lose to Man City in the FA Cup, which I think we probably do expect to, or Man United beat Nottingham Forest, which again we expect to. So the Luton-Nottingham Forest fixture looks quite likely in Game Week 29, whereas Bournemouth, on the other hand, we think could be a blank in Game Week 29. They have originally a Wolves away, which I think is a okay fixture, but that game is going to be a blank if Wolves beat Brighton or Bournemouth beat Leicester. So I think one of those two will probably happen. Therefore, Bournemouth will blank in Game Week 29. And all of a sudden, it makes Luton really interesting if they were to double in 25, double in 28, and importantly, play in that blank game week 29. And we are going to come onto a bit more of a macro overview on the fixtures just to give you a bit more detail on exactly what I mean by that. But that is a cover off of double game week 28. Really important to know about it. Let's take a look at some of the best Luton players and then we'll progress through the video. Now, taking a look at the top 3 Luton players for game week 24, I think these 3 are going to be the pick of the bunch. Kaminsky in goal at 4.5 million, Doughty at 4.6 million defender, and of course Adebayo at 4.9 million as a forward. Now, there are a few other differentials out there if you want to go there. At 3.9 in defence, you can either get yourself Bell or you can get yourself Mengi. I think both of those game time wise are going to be pretty secure over this period. So I think both are good. I'd probably just go for Mengi if you want guaranteed game time. And also in the midfield, I think Ross Barkley is an interesting differential if you want to go there. But I know midfield spots are so precious in FPL. I do think the other areas like the defenders and the forwards can be a little bit more appealing for these budget enablers. And that's really what they are over this period. We're not looking at these thinking that they're going to be ripping up trees and getting double-digit returns each and every game week. But purchasing Luton players are going to enable you probably a lot of cash in the bank, I imagine, because I doubt that you're going to have any forward close to 4.9 million. And also you're getting that volume of fixtures. I know they blank in game week 26, but the game week 25 double and the game week 28 double, I feel kind of outweigh that. And I think it is enough for a reason to be considering Luton players going into this weekend. Now, Kaminsky, I think, will probably be the easiest to get to because at 4.5 million, you might be sat there right now with a goalkeeper of a similar price. Now, firstly, I want to say, I would not be bringing in Kaminsky this week if you don't have a backup goalkeeper that plays in game week 26. So you do need to remember that. Would not be bringing him in if you do not have an alternative goalkeeper in there. Otherwise, long term, I know the double in game week 25 is not ideal. I think goalkeepers are the ones that really can thrive in these game weeks because all it takes is a random penalty save or a very, very out of the blue clean sheet, and all of a sudden you have hauled in a goalkeeper and you still have that second fixture potentially to play. So I really like Kaminsky over this period. Please have a backup. Doughty at 4.6 I think is also really interesting because I think you're probably sat there with maybe a few mid-price million defenders, maybe a Trent Alexander-Arnold. And like myself, I've got someone like a Saliba who's currently sat there not doing too much for me. Doughty could be an option for our teams at 4.6. He does offer attack and threat from those wing-back areas as well. So I really do like him. If you can afford him, he is a great enabler into that defence. And last up, Adebayo, as I mentioned, I think this guy is really interesting. Playing as the main man with Carlton Morris just behind in that number 10 role, but giving him all of the big chances in this Luton team. And with the fixtures coming up, again, if your team can navigate game week 26, he is an amazing enabler, especially if you're looking to target maybe some Man City players going into game weeks 24 and 25. Could you maybe downgrade your third forward to Adebayo, which could give you the cash to maybe upgrade a cheap midfielder, maybe an Anthony Gordon, to a Kevin De Bruyne? I think that really does need to be a consideration for a lot of FPL managers out there. But to conclude, I think if you're going to buy Luton, I think it needs to be this game week. Whereas if you do it in game week 25, I think you only do that if it's part of a multiple transfer strategy to enable another player. Because followed by a blank in game week 26, I don't really think you're getting the full upside. I think now is the time to strike. Okay, so hopefully that game week 28 double has been fully covered off. I didn't really touch on buying Bournemouth players this game week because I don't really think they're essential. And the reason being is because looking at the games coming up, there are other teams that are way more priority than Bournemouth. We can focus on them from game week 27 onwards. So shout out to Ben Crellin, the fixture guru. This is taken from his Twitter. Make sure you are following him. I just wanted to give us a bit more of a macro view on the fixtures coming up because we cannot lose sight on the game weeks that are coming up right in front of us. So to give you an indication right now, game weeks 24 to 28 are now locked in. There will be no surprises over that period, but game week 29 is a little bit uncertain, but we will touch on that in a second. So just to give you a cover off, game week 24 is a single game week, 25 is a double, 26 is a blank, 27 is a single game week, and 28 is a double game week. And game week 29 will eventually be a confirmed blank game week. So what I want to focus on right now is the next 3 game weeks. Game week 24, 25 and 26. We cannot lose sight of that because that is where the instant returns are going to come. Now, if you haven't noticed already, Man City are essential. They are absolutely essential because they play in 24 with a brilliant home game against Everton. They double in 25 with 2 home games. and they play in game week 26. If it was me, I think the triple attack is where I'll go. I don't see the value in the defence right now. I could see clean sheets, but I just don't see them getting goals, assists, or even bonus points, where I could see Man City maybe scoring 3-4 goals in each game. I really think it is that favourable for them. And I think you're going to want all three attacking assets, whether that be Foden, De Bruyne and Haaland, or maybe even an Alvarez in there if you want to save a little bit of money. I think Man City are absolutely essential, and we do need to remember that going into this game week. Don't be distracted by the double game week 28 announcement. Liverpool are also an interesting one. We've touched on Luton. I'm not going to cover that, and we touched Bournemouth, but Liverpool are interesting because they do blank in game week 26. Now, of course, you could free hit in game week 26. We will come on to my chip strategy in a minute, but I personally don't think game week 26 free hit is the best way to utilise your chips. So I think trying to run through that with free transfers is the best way to go. But Liverpool players are interesting because if you do steam into them with triple Liverpool, and you also have a Spurs player and a Chelsea player, game week 26 becomes very hard to navigate. We also do need to remember that there could be rotation for Liverpool players in that game week 25 double, especially when they have such an easy, I'm going to say, double at home against Luton in that second game. So we do need to consider rotation, but I think two Liverpool are essential regardless. Maybe a Trent and one attacker just to give yourself that cover. But in terms of teams that play throughout the entire period, we do need to look at Brentford because they double in 25, they play in game week 26, and they are confirmed to play in game week 29. That is really important as well for our team. So make sure you are keeping a note of this here because it is really important to note what is coming forward for teams. Game week 29 is the interesting one. Now I'm going to put a graphic up once again from Ben Crellin covering off the permutations of game week 29. But what we need to know is what I discussed. Luton could easily play in game week 29. If Luton beats Man City or Nottingham Forest beat Man United, then they will blank. But I can't really see either of those happening. So there is, as Ben Crellin said, a 44% chance of a blank. That does put it in Luton's favour to have a game. And all of a sudden they become really, really appealing. Man United versus Sheffield United as well. Somebody that owns Garnacho, I'm really hoping this game continues. The only way it'll be a blank is if Man United beat Nottingham Forest, and I probably do expect that. So then in that case, we are not in a good situation with Man United either. And then you look at the rest of the percentages, there is a solid chance that Brighton City, Everton Liverpool, Palace Newcastle, Arsenal Chelsea are all going to blank in game week 29. And that is going to cause a lot of problems. So we do need to start focusing on those teams that are definitely playing in game week 29 if you don't want a free hit in that period, which include Brentford, Villa, Burnley, Fulham, West Ham, and of course Spurs. So make sure you do have a macro note of the fixtures coming up. We're going to come on to my chip strategy now. If you have any questions about this, let me know in the comments. Okay, so current chip strategy. This is always evolving with announcements of doubles, blank game week. So please do note that it's at the time of recording. But I'm going to quickly go through this because this is of the assumption that you have all of your chips available. I can only go off right now what I have because otherwise, I could be going off on 10 different strategies. So hopefully this can relate to you. If you do have maybe no triple captain or no wildcard, let me know in the comments and I will give you a bit more of an adjusted chip strategy. I would have to do a separate video if I wanted to go down every single situation. So the key information you already know. Game week 25 is a double, 26 is a blank, 28 is a double, and game week 29 is going to be a big blank game week. We'll cover off the others in the next section, but triple captain game week 25 or 28 for me is pretty much locked in. Haaland at home against Chelsea and Brentford. Now, could he get rotated in one of those fixtures? Yeah, it could happen, but I think sometimes the fixtures are just too good. And when you have an opportunity to triple captain Haaland in a double game week with 2 home games, I just don't think we overthink it really. I think it is the most obvious triple captain left of the season. Now, we could have a great double in game week 37, but we are going to talk about why I think another chip is better over that period. Now, the other alternative where I don't see us using a chip in that game week is game week 28 with that double game week for Dominic Solanke. And I'd argue the fixtures are much better. Sheffield United at home and Luton at home. So I get it. I think Dominic Solanke is a brilliant option for that game week because he has penalties similar to Haaland. His game time is probably more secure than Haaland's. The only thing about it is Bournemouth, I wouldn't say they're unpredictable, but I just don't really know if they are going to be battering these teams, which I could see Man City doing against both Chelsea and Brentford. So I personally don't think I'm going to overthink it. I don't think the triple captain is one of the best chips out there. So I think I'm just going to use it in game week 25. Get it out the way on Erling Haaland. I'm going to captain him anyway, so I might as well put the triple captain and really double down on that brilliant double game week. Now, the next chip that I think I would use is the wildcard around game week 30, 31, maybe as late as game week 32. Now, the reason being is game week 29, as we know, is going to be a massive blank game week. And even though a free hit in game week 29 definitely is a possibility, and I would advise you maybe looking at that strategy, for me, I think I can get to a situation where maybe I can field 9 or 10 of the best players that are playing in game week 29 and give myself the luxury of keeping my free hit for later on in the season. Now, is 9 or 10 players the best route? No, because when I put my team up against those that are free hitting, my team is going to get absolutely battered. But if I can own the highly owned players in game week 29 and the free hitters maybe just have a few differentials that do well, I can kind of accept that. And what's really important to note is if you are planning a wildcard in game week 30, you can start to sell off all of these big players that don't play in game week 29. So for example, you could get rid of Erling Haaland and not stress. You could get rid of all of these players. Bring in some of the players that you probably don't necessarily think you would ever, knowing that in game week 30, you're simply going to wildcard and bring back all of the players that you originally had. If you don't have a wildcard, then I would be very, very against this strategy, because what we call this is dead-ended. It means that you sell all your players to basically have a team for game week 29, knowing that in game week 30, you're going to wildcard and bring back all of the players that you really do want. If you don't have the wildcard available, you're going to dead end to game week 29 and then be stuck with those players for the foreseeable future. So please do consider that. If you don't have a wildcard, this strategy wouldn't be for you. So now let's take a look at the free hit and bench boost, because this is where it gets exciting. So taking a look at the other chips here, the bench boost and the free hit, the key information here is that game week 37 is going to be a big double game week for a lot of teams. And what I didn't state on here, I do apologize, is game week 34 is going to be a small double and a small blank game week. So again, what we do need to state is there is a lot of uncertainty right now on exactly what the fixtures are going to look like over that period, because there is a lot of permutations, cup results, etc. So we need to be flexible, especially with these two chips. I'm just going to cover off kind of an overview on both. The bench boost, of course, gives you 15 players for your playing squad as opposed to the 11. And realistically, when you wildcard, maybe game week 30, 31, historically in FPL, what you try to do is bench boost the following game week or a few game weeks after. The reason being is, in order to bench boost and get the full potential out of it, you not only need to have a good 11, you need to have a good bench as well. And when you wildcard, it gives you the opportunity to spread the funds for all 15 players. You then bench boost a few weeks later, and then you can start to sell off those expensive bench players for cheap enablers to really refocus the money into your starting 11. So usually the advice is to bench boost a couple of weeks after, and a strategy that we could go down is the wildcard game week 30, and then we use the bench boost in game week 34, and then we start to sell off those players later down the line. So that is definitely a strategy, but I also like the idea of bench boosting in game week 37, because there's going to be so many big double game weeks that 15 doublers really excites me, I can't lie, as opposed to free hitting in game week 37 where you can only get 11 double game weekers. I think I'd rather have the more players doubling over that period. Now, of course, the only downside is if you wildcard in game week 30, you kind of then have to build a team of 15 that will double in game week 37, and it might be difficult to allocate the funds, but you will have 6 or 7 game weeks of free transfers to get to that team. So I'm not against the bench boost in game week 37 to give myself 15 double game weekers, but as I said here in free hit game week 37, that is a preference just because it gives you the best 11 players that are doubling over that game week. So you need to decide for yourself, do you want the best 11 in a free hit team, or do you want 15 doublers? The more I talk about it, the more I think I'd rather bench boost in game week 37 and give myself 15 players that double. Now, what I will say is game week 34 for the free hit could be really handy, because those tricky game weeks, the ones where you have a mini double and a mini blank, can really throw confusion for players. And sometimes it is best just to use the free hit in those game weeks that are a little bit awkward. And right now, game week 34 does look like that. So to conclude, if I was to guess right now, I think my strategy would look like a triple captain in game week 25 with the captaincy on Erling Haaland, a wild card in game week 30, 31, 32 after dead ending my team for the blank game week 29. Most likely a free hit in game week 34 and a bench boost in game week 37. And I feel like I've convinced myself now that only 15 doublers in a big double is probably the route to go for. But again, it needs to be flexible because the later on doubles and blanks haven't been announced yet. So let me know your thoughts in the comments. I'll be really interested to know. So I think that's enough chatting about the macro view, the long-term landscape of FPL. We need to focus on game week 24 and this double in 25. And let's be real here. We're all buying Liverpool and Man City players. I think that's always the preference going into this game week, and it always has been. You buy from the best teams who have the best fixtures, and right now that is Liverpool and Man City. The only thing that I do want to make you guys aware of is the fixture schedule for Liverpool, because I'm not sitting here trying to scaremonger you guys saying that you shouldn't be buying Liverpool, but I just want to make it clear of something. So I've got the fixtures coming up for Liverpool in all competitions right now. Of course, on Saturday they have their game week 24 fixture at home against Burnley, and that really feels like the opportunity to have double or triple Liverpool, because that alone is an amazing fixture. But then of course they got the double in game week 25, which is Brentford away, which is a week later, which is fantastic, loads of rest time. But then they do have Luton 4 days later at home, and then 4 days after that they do have the Carabao Cup final. Now again, I'm not trying to scare you guys off at all, but that is 3 games in 7 or 8 days, however you want to look at it. And I do think there is a possibility that we could see some rotation in that Luton game, especially as I've mentioned here. If we do get a positive update from Mo Salah, maybe Klopp would look at the Luton game as the opportunity to get some minutes in his legs before that big EFL Cup final. Now again, we don't really have a latest update on Mo Salah right now, so I'm not trying to put out things there. It's all a potential, but we do just need to be clear that rotation in the Luton game is definitely a possibility with all the attacking options that Liverpool have. Do I think you should not buy Liverpool? No. I still think going for triple is probably worth it, and just knowing that you might get 100 minutes from your attackers like a Jota or a Darwin, but I think the risk is worth it. Of course, then after that, the blank game week in 26. So if you really wanted to, you could just go for maybe a Trent and a Darwin or a Jota and just go for the double up and say to yourself, I'm not going to give myself a headache in game week 26. And I do think for myself, if we were to get Klopp come out and say that Mo Salah is touch and go for the weekend and he's definitely going to be back for the Brentford game, I'd actually be pretty scared to go for double Liverpool attack, because I think that really makes their minutes uncertain. And then I feel like maybe just a Darwin or a Jota is the best route to go for. So make your own conclusions. I just wanted to make sure you know of the fixture schedule for Liverpool, as I could see some rotation in that Luton game, but let me know your thoughts in the comments. Now, we spoke about the importance of Liverpool over the next 2. Man City are even more important. We touched on it earlier on in the video. They have an amazing game week 24 fixture at home against Everton. They double in game week 25 and they play in game week 26. So it's all aboard Man City. You have my permission to go triple up. And as we discussed, I just don't think the value is really there for the defenders. Could they keep a clean sheet? Absolutely they could, but they're not really big on the bonus points and they're not really big on the attacking numbers. I think we go all in on their attackers. Now, realistically, I think we could go for a world where we have Foden, De Bruyne and Erling Haaland, but I know quite a few of you don't have that cash available. So I want to quickly touch on the game against Brentford, because it was one of the few times where we have seen Haaland, Alvarez, Foden and De Bruyne all in a team together. And of course, because it was such small minutes, we don't know whether Pep is planning to do this every single game week, but I did want to look at how it impacted both Foden and De Bruyne, because on the face of it, of course, Foden was the clear winner with the hat-trick, and maybe some people thought De Bruyne is not a good option. So I just wanted to cover it off. Now, shout out to Fantasy Football Fix. They are just the GOAT when it comes to underlying numbers. I've taken the touch heat map here, not only of the Brentford game, but this is of this season. Here is Phil Foden's touch heat map whenever Kevin De Bruyne has been on the pitch. And the far one is Kevin De Bruyne's touch heat map whenever Phil Foden has been on the pitch. You can see that at the top there. So this is unbelievable analysis. You are welcome. So First up, Phil Foden. You can see him picking up pockets here, but he has had times where he has played on the right wing, which we saw in game week 22, I believe. So please do be cautious of that. And he isn't on any set pieces whatsoever. Whereas if you look at Kevin De Bruyne's, you can see he is on all corners. He has taken that responsibility away from Alvarez. And I would say he's also on direct free kicks. What I love, you can see that classic Kevin De Bruyne heat map in that far right corner where he overlaps, whether it be the other midfielder or the fullback, getting in those cutbacks for Haaland, for example. So looking at the touch heat map, they do operate in very similar areas, but De Bruyne's is just much more covered across the entire pitch. And if I was to look at this in isolation and not put names to them, I definitely would be in more favour of the Kevin De Bruyne touch heat map. And I don't really want to focus too much on game week 23 in isolation, because I don't know whether he is going to go for that strategy week in, week out, playing all four of the big guns. But if it is to go forward, I think having both of these is pretty essential over the next 4 or 5 game weeks. I think both are going to thrive in their positions. And if I were to buy one, I think I would try and afford De Bruyne. I know Foden scored the hat-trick, but we're going to come on to the underlying numbers right now, which are really interesting to view. Now, here are the underlying numbers, again, taken from when Foden is on the field with De Bruyne and vice versa, when De Bruyne is on the field with Phil Foden. So remember, these aren't for the full season, because I want to look at how they both operate together, because this is the kind of likely scenario going forward. Now, Phil Foden does dominate in the attacking numbers per 90 minutes for goal threat. XG per 90, 0.38. That's basically double that of Kevin De Bruyne's. Shots slightly more in Phil Foden's favour, and shots on target. But of course, De Bruyne is going to be the chief creator in this team. You can see that with the expected assists being 0.75, the attempted assists at nearly 4, and the big chances created at 1.31. The reason why I do prefer Kevin De Bruyne over the longer term is for a few reasons. One, I just think he's going to play all the minutes over this period. He's been out for the first half of the year. He's proved his fitness. I think he is just raring to go in this team, and he is big game Kev. He steps up in these big moments. So when I look at the long-term fixtures, I do think that he is a player that is going to play significant minutes and really step up when it matters. He's on all set pieces as well. So if Man City are having one of those games, you know that the avenue to points for Kevin De Bruyne is slightly better, as he could just get a random assist from something like a corner. And because he's such a chance creator, he is unbelievable on the bonus points. So whereas Phil Foden is fantastic as well, De Bruyne only really needs an assist, and he is going to be picking up probably 1 bonus point minimum in that game week, as long as somebody hasn't scored a hat-trick like a Phil Foden. And also, when we do look at them in isolation, what I like about De Bruyne is that he does give you a bit more money into that midfield. So when you do eventually want to maybe go to a Son or a Mo Salah, you already have quite a lot of cash allocated in that midfield role to easily upgrade to one of those premiums. So that is another reason why I do prefer De Bruyne slightly over Phil Foden, even though he did score the hat-trick. But of course, if you can have both, it is a major preference for these upcoming fixtures. And for my team, I really want De Bruyne, Foden and Erling Haaland. So finally, we are coming into my game week 24 team. A quick update. Overall rank 228k. I've got 3.4 million in the bank and 2 free transfers available. Now, my advice, make sure you are subscribed to the channel and have that notification bell on, because I'm going deep diving into my team in tomorrow's video. I know this video that you're watching right now is very long, so I do not want to bore you. So I'm going to do a separate video of my Game Week 24 team selection, so make sure you check that out. Tomorrow, I'm going to do my team and my team for the next 5 game weeks, going through the doubles and the blanks to give you an exact idea on my long-term plans. But for this week in isolation, you can see that my team's looking okay. I've got myself 1 Liverpool player. I want that to at least be 2. I've got 2 Man City. Ideally, I want that to be 3. So that is my priority right now. I know Luton have got double-double. I know Bournemouth have got a future double, but my focus right now is on getting the fixtures that are coming up, and that include Liverpool. Now, it is going to be very counterintuitive, because there is a chance that I may sell Dominic Solanke for Darwin Núñez to bring him in for the Burnley at home game and the double, with the plan to then go back to Dominic Solanke later down the line. Or I sell Ollie Watkins. The only problem with Ollie Watkins, he plays in game week 26 and of course now plays in game week 29. So it makes him a really, really easy hold long term. And we saw what he done in game week 23, sorry. He can really go off with those double digit hauls. So I think right now my intention is to potentially do Dominic Solanke to a Darwin Núñez. Otherwise, what I could do is change the structure of my team a little bit and actually controversially sell Cole Palmer or Anthony Gordon. With Anthony Gordon being flagged, I think that's quite an easy transfer to upgrade him to somebody like a Diogo Jota. I think his game time and threat's just as good as Darwin Núñez's over this period. And I think maybe doing that is going to maybe make my team a bit more flexible going forward. It means that Jota would come in for Garnacho in my team. And then it depends on what I want to do with the other free transfer. Whether I try and take a -4 and bring in Kevin De Bruyne this week at the expense of a Saka or a Cole Palmer, or I make a boring defender move like a Doughty or a 3.9 million Luton defender. That is all going to be discussed in tomorrow's video, so make sure you are following. I can't wait to deep dive on those long-term plans. Yes, guys, okay, that is going to wrap up today's Game Week 24 preview video. I do apologise, it is a long one, but hopefully it has given you a lot of value. As always, if you did enjoy the video, please do consider dropping a like. We're aiming for 300. And if you haven't already, make sure you do smash that subscribe button. We're aiming for 13k before the end of the season. It'll be amazing to have you on board for the second half of the year. Have an amazing day, and I'll see you in tomorrow's Game Week 24 team selection video. Take care. Cheers.